Hello, and welcome to this episode of the podcast Widowhood Made Me Happier with me, your host, Tabby Kerwin, the podcast where we protect mental health, grow with our grief, and perform at our best. Now, how are we? What day am I recording this? It's Saturday, and I am recording this. How are we doing this weekend? I hope you have some lovely plans in place. Now, if you're watching this as opposed to just listening, then you will notice that I am wearing a black veil. And I want to talk about the veil of grief. Now, for those of you that are familiar with my TED Talk that was recorded at TEDx Teesside in October 2025, and the talk was called Widowhood Made Me Happier, most controversially, which took a few people by surprise because the title kind of implicated that I'm happy my husband's dead. So let's get that out the way first. I am absolutely not happy that my husband is dead. However, widowhood has made me happier because it has given me permission to truly be me, authentically be me, to live the life that I want in the way I want, and have zero fears of the opinions of other people in what and how I live my life. So there we go. So why the veil? So if you are familiar with that talk, you will know that I started my TED Talk wearing this black veil, and it was there to, I guess, really be something that stuck with people in their head. I mean, apart from, I'm the woman that walked on stage with a black veil, but it makes a point because as widows, as widowers, but especially widows, and especially talking about women living with grief in this moment, we historically were expected to grieve in a certain way for a set amount of time, for a duration that was dictated, that is a word, by culture and society and religion and men. And we were told how to grieve and how long to grieve for and what we should wear and what we should do. And you will, if you look at Victorian times and pictures of widows, you will see them wearing these black veils. Right, I'm getting rid of this veil now. Okay, that's enough of the veil. But this veil it's not just fact of what people used to wear and how widows were perceived, it's also a symbol. Okay, because whether we are living with grief or not, we are all wearing veils. Okay, we all go through periods in our life when we wear a veil. Now, for some, veils can symbolize something really beautiful, really exciting if we just changed the color. If it was white, everyone would go, oh, it's so exciting, it's a wedding, it's a bride, how glorious, lovely, all that. Yeah, but as soon as it's black, it's like, oh. And it's amazing how that, just the change of a color, I've got something in my eye now because of this veil, how the change of color can really change what we think we know, because that's what we've been conditioned to believe. White veils, that's all happy and love and joyous and all the rest of it. Black veils, ooh, bad. Actually, I think black veils are quite cool, and I think more people should wear them for weddings because they're really, and colourful veils. And whilst we're talking about weddings as well, underskirts, net skirts under dresses of bright colours. I actually wore a bright red underskirt to my wedding dress when I married Simon in 2016. Oh, and also, let me digress. What is this 2016 trend over on Instagram of sharing photos from 10 years ago? I mean, it's lovely, and I did, if anyone saw my Instagram stories earlier this week, I did post a lovely photo because it was the year that Simon and I got married, which was absolutely joyous and lovely, though the wedding itself wasn't without some stories and behaviours of people that made it memorable, but it was gorgeous. And I shared a lovely photo that I absolutely adore, that I have in my on the wall in my living room, actually, Simon and I. But then I did add a little bit of dark widow humour in the caption that said, but spoiler alert, we know how this story ended, and 2 years later he was dead. But yeah, I don't know if anyone can fill me in on why this 26 trend is a thing. Would love to know. But anywho, I digress. The veil. So in widowhood, we have historically been expected to grieve for a set amount of time in a certain way, how we speak, how we dress, everything dictated by culture, religion, society, and men. And the burden of grief historically has always been way more on women than men. That's just how it's been. But at the same time, we've been expected to stick to those rules of what grief looked like and what we were conditioned to believe, but also crack on. And if we can just carry on doing all the things at home and looking after the children and families and supporting everybody else in their grief, that was our role as a widow historically. But we're not just talking about veils that symbolise grief and widowhood, because quite often in our lives, a lot of us are wearing veils. And that is a veil of telling people, I'm fine, even when inside we are absolutely struggling and crumbling and burnt out and not managing our stress, and maybe struggling in relationships or financially or in our jobs or whatever burdens we're carrying, whatever is in our stress container. So there is that veil, the veil of I'm fine. And that veil of I'm fine also comes as a consequence that we don't want to burden other people with how we're truly feeling. We want to protect them. So in order to protect them, it means we have to put more burden on ourselves. So it's easier just to say I'm fine and mask the situation than it is to be open and honest and authentic and, you know, actually share with people that we're not doing okay. But here is your permission, should you need it, to tell people you are not okay, which is the hardest thing in the world. And we see this all the time. If you're struggling, then reach out and talk. But honestly, if you are in that position, the hardest thing to do is talk. So as the listeners, what we really need to do is open ourselves more to make ourselves safe spaces, and to know that we are available for people to talk to, and to ask them how they're doing, and ask them regularly, and ask them twice. Okay, asking twice is really important, because if you just say to someone, oh, how are you, default answer is I'm fine, because we don't want to burden them with time or our emotions, or, you know, they might actually be fine, which is a whole different thing, but they're probably not, and they're probably just protecting you. If we ask them twice though, because we've noticed something in them, and that might be how they're speaking, how they're behaving, how they're dressed, we might have noticed some signs in them, and we just say to them, are you sure you're okay? What that does is it plants this seed that gives them permission to go, hang on a minute, I'm not okay. Now, as the person who asked the question, you might not be the right person for them to talk to. They might want to talk to someone they're not as close to. They might want to talk to someone who they are closer to. They might want to talk to someone anonymously, maybe via a text service or email service, such as the Shout text line or Samaritans or something like that. They might want to go that route. They might want to invest in a coach or a therapist or something like that, or go and see their GP. But it does plant that seed that I can talk to someone. So that is a veil that so many people wear, this veil of I'm fine. The other veil that we often wear is the veil of perfection, the belief that we have to have it all together all of the time. And the truth of this is you absolutely don't. Okay, it's great to get your ducks in a row, but honestly, most of us, our ducks are all over the flicking place and we don't have a clue. And what is that meme that you see? My ducks are definitely not in a row, and I'm fairly sure one of them is a pigeon. Okay, so your ducks don't have to be in a row all the time, but I would say we can work towards trying to get our ducks in a row, and that means putting in the basic steps to help protect our mental health, to grow with our grief, to perform at our best. So we can get our ducks in a row. We don't have to always have them in that row, because lifes and things happen and things go wrong and people die and stress happens and deadlines happen at work and kids are ill and relationships have rocky periods. You know, there's so much that gets in the way. Perfect is not a thing. Okay, it's not something we should be striving for. It's completely unobtainable. Okay, so we shouldn't be aiming for perfection, but we should be aiming for progress. So we need to break down, if you are someone that wears this veil of perfection, this belief that everything has to be, you have to have it all together all of the time. Okay, it's time to start working on how you can knock down that barrier, because it really is a barrier for you, and it's possibly getting in the way of you progressing, and it's possibly getting in the way of you choosing and creating happiness and experiencing all those good things. So definitely something that you can work on. If you want some resources to help with that, then as always, you can go over to my platform at theperformexperience.com, where there's loads of free resources to help you do that. And a great starting point is the one that's Get Your Ducks in a Row. So you can go over there and you can download that for free, and come and be part of our community where we can talk about all these things, where we are not perfect and we don't have our ducks in a row, but we're trying really hard to do it, and we're putting in place the things to protect our mental health rather than just pushing everything down the line and waiting until we're experiencing that burnout and not managing our stress and life's gone to shit. Okay, so that's what we're doing over there. Now, so we've got the veil that's perceived of widowhood and grief. We've got the veil of I'm fine. We've got the veil of perfection, and the other veil that we often wear is the veil of fear. The fear of not getting things right, the fear of not being what people expect, and the biggest fear, the fear of the opinions of other people. And I talk about this a lot. I've talked about it, I think, in all my books. I've talked about it in my TEDx talk. I've talked about it in episodes of this podcast that have both been and that will to come. The opinions of other people are not your concern. Okay, they are absolutely not your concern. That was wisdom given to me by a very good friend of mine and my husband Simon's, who I was experiencing social anxiety and I was really struggling. And because my key strength is kindness, the saboteur that goes hand in hand with that key strength is people pleasing. And people pleasing can become a real problem, and that can really spiral into a fear of what other people think. Okay, and for me that then manifested in social anxiety and all the rest of it. And it was founded in this fear of judgment from others. And it wasn't about anything I did professionally, because with that I was fine, but it was personally. Do they think I'm nice enough? Do they think I'm too much? Do they think I'm, too loud as a voice or as a person? Am I too big? Am I too small? And as someone who's lived with eating disorders and lived at different weights, there is this constant fear of judgment. Am I enough? Am I passing, when I was younger, am I passing the right exams? Am I doing the things that I need to do to be the top of the class? And am I doing enough to be liked by everyone? So let's break down some facts. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You won't be liked by everyone, and that is okay. Equally, you are not going to like everybody. Okay. How other people think about you, it's not your concern. It's also not your business, because their beliefs are grounded in what they've experienced in their life, and they make decisions based on that. And so that's not your business, that's not your concern. So any of these fears, and especially those that are around the judgments of other people, it's not your concern. It doesn't matter, because you can't do anything about it. As long as you are living to your values and aligning to your values and your beliefs, and you're doing things in a kind and open-hearted way, with an intention to care, with an intention to help other people for highest and best in whatever you do and however you do it, that's good. That's you being you, and you will attract the right people. We don't have to attract all the people. We just have to attract the right people, and you have to surround yourself with the people who will ask you, are you okay? And ask you twice, because they've got an intention to listen. You need to surround yourself with the people that will help you progress in the way that feels the best and most aligned for you in your heart. You need to surround yourself with the people who will support you the most. So I have chosen to remove several people out of my life over the years, and some because it didn't feel right, because they didn't support me. I have removed myself from organisations or groups or workplaces or whatever it is, because if I'm consistently walking into a room and people aren't saying, are you okay? They're not, even if you're saying I'm going through something hard at the minute, and they're not going, that's tough, how can I help? Or if you do something really good that's absolutely huge for you, and none of those people go, well done, I'm proud of you, then that's not the right room for you to be in. Okay, and it's important that you then are very brave and don't just continue on automatic pilot of turning up in that place because it makes their life easier, that you go, hang on a minute, I deserve better. I deserve more support. And that's not about ego, it's not about arrogance, but it is about surrounding yourself with the people who have got a true and real intention to care for you as a person in the version that you are of yourself now, have been and will be, and that they can accompany you on that journey. And it's absolutely okay as you change, because we are all meant to change and grow, that the people you need around you change changes as well. And some people won't go with you through the whole journey of friendship on your life because they're not, they are a chapter in it. And that is what I've become really okay with. And I can, kind of leave those people in that chapter. And that's not to say we wouldn't be close friends again in the future. But they were right for them, but they don't get this version of me, and that's absolutely fine. And I love them for everything they've done, and that's where they are in their life, on their journey. And it was great that our paths crossed, but now we're all going off on different places, so it's absolutely fine. But the biggest thing is we need to start noticing what veils we carry. So is it a veil of grief? Are we just carrying that really heavy burden all the time? Are we carrying a veil of I'm fine? And actually every time somebody asks us if we're okay, we're just going, yeah, I'm fine. Because it's easier, because we don't want to burden them, because we don't want to actually share we're not okay. We're hiding behind this veil of I'm fine, this mask. We're masking it all. Are we perhaps hiding behind a veil of perfection? So we're not really sharing how great we are at things or what we're doing because it's not perfect, because we're chasing perfect, but perfect doesn't exist. So whatever you're doing, shout about it, whether it's you've written something, whether it is you've been to the gym once. You don't wait for the end result and share your huge transformation. Share, I went to the gym today and I'm really freaking proud of myself. Share that. Don't hide behind the veil of perfection, waiting for when. It's that thing of I'll be happy when, right? When might not come. Just be happy now and share that, because I want to see that you're happy, because when I see you're doing something great, that inspires me. That makes me go, oh my God, I'm really pleased with them. I'm so proud of them. I want to do that, or I want to do my thing. Okay, so don't wait for perfection. Share along the way. Go with progress. Celebrate progress. And the other veil that we might be hiding behind is the veil of fear. Okay, whether it's the fear of opinions, whether it's the fear of doing something because it feels challenging, because we don't think we're there yet. Okay, take the small steps towards it. So let's start thinking about where we're noticing these veils in ourselves, on ourselves, or in other people. Perhaps, we're noticing someone else wearing a veil, and maybe that can lead to a very open and kind conversation with them that starts with, you okay? And we can share what we've noticed, as long as we're delivering that in a non-judgmental way. And that could perhaps really, really help them, because they might have been living this a long time and no one's noticed. And what you do by opening that conversation is give them permission to talk about it. And for some people, that might have been the hardest thing that they've been hiding behind, the hardest veil. And you can give them permission to talk about it and say, do you know what? It's okay. And I have veils too, because we all have them. So whether you are walking around with a big black veil, or you are hiding behind the veil of I'm fine, or the veil of fear, or the veil of perfection, it's time to acknowledge them. Okay. And it's time to start removing them where appropriate, and celebrating all the amazing things that come along, because we can be living with a veil and life can be hard, whether that's grief, whether it's mental health, whether it's just everyday stresses. We can live with those veils, but we can also choose to be happy. We can also choose to create moments of joy. We can also choose to experience love. Okay, so that's what we can do. So it's time to start acknowledging what veils there are, so we can start removing them where it's appropriate. Now, as always, if you are living with grief, if you are finding it tough, or if you are perhaps experiencing stress, burnout, or poor mental health, then I will, as always, share with you some signposting resources. As I mentioned earlier in the episode, you are absolutely free to go over to our platform at theperformexperience.com and check out the free resources that are there for you to help you embrace your grief, help you get your ducks in a row, to become more productive, but ultimately to help you protect your mental health, grow with grief, and perform at your best. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you will join me in the next episode of the podcast. Loads of love as always. Bye bye.